So good day to one and all. I am Dr. Rohit Gopinath, and today we'll be discussing about the esophagus. Now, the esophagus, as we all know, is a hollow muscular tube about 25 centimeters in length. Before we go into the anatomy of the esophagus and the physiology and the pathology of the esophagus, we need to have a basic understanding regarding the embryology of it. So it is very important that we have a basic understanding regarding the embryology of the esophagus. Now, the esophagus develops from the primitive gut, basically the foregut portion of the primitive gut. Now, the primitive gut is divided into three important parts. One is the foregut, which is the area of the primitive gut which is present proximal to the attachment of the yolk sac. Second is the midgut, where the yolk sac attaches itself. And the third part is the hindgut, which is present distal to the attachment of the yolk sac. The foregut is separated from the developing head or the stomatodium by what is called as the buccopharyngeal membrane. Now, the foregut gives rise to multiple important structures which may not be related to the gut as such, for example, the tracheobronchial tree, etc. The developing esophagus is present as a small tube which elongates as the embryo develops. Now, the primitive gut has an epithelial lining which is derived from the endoderm, but its vessels and the muscular component of the gut are developed from the mesoderm. Now, this developing esophagus forms at the end of the development process, at the end of embryogenesis. The esophagus at the time of birth, you find that is a hollow muscular structure. The adult esophagus is around 25 centimeters in length. So, like I said earlier, esophagus is a hollow muscular tube with a length of 25 centimeters in adulthood. It extends from the cricopharyngeal sphincter, the cricopharyngeus, which is nothing but the transverse fibers of the inferior constrictor muscle, right down to the OG junction or esophagogastric junction. Esophagus is one structure which is pretty important. The relations of the esophagus is one which is very confusing to us from a surgeon's point of view, because it varies depending upon which part of the esophagus it is that we are dealing with. So, the esophagus has three important parts. It has a cervical portion which extends from the cricopharyngeus right down to the sternal notch. It has a thoracic portion which extends from the sternal notch right down to the entry point where it enters a diaphragm. Below the diaphragm, we have the abdominal esophagus. Now, the abdominal esophagus, the length of the abdominal esophagus is of paramount importance because it is necessary to prevent certain pathologies that we will be discussing about in later slides. The abdominal esophagus should have a minimum length of 2.5 centimeters. The esophagus has constrictions at four different levels. The first constriction is located at the level of the cricopharyngeal sphincter or the cricopharyngeus. So, as I said earlier, to reiterate, cricopharyngeus is nothing but the transverse fibers of the inferior constrictor. So, this cricopharyngeal sphincter, which marks the entry point or the starting point of the esophagus, is the narrowest portion in the gastrointestinal tract. Okay, and that is located around 15 centimeters from the upper incisor tooth. Now, these constrictions on the esophagus are always marked in relation to the upper incisor tooth because the upper jaw is relatively fixed and the outermost fixed portion of the upper jaw is the upper incisor. So, hence, constrictions of the esophagus on the esophagus, which are 4 in number, are marked based on its distance from the upper incisor. The second constriction on the esophagus is located at a distance of around 22.5 centimeters and it is caused by the arch of aorta. So, you can see here the arch of aorta seems to be anterior to the esophagus and compresses the esophagus, hence causing a constriction at this level. Below that, we have the left main bronchus. The left main bronchus compresses the esophagus, and it is this constriction where a constriction caused by the compression is located around 27.5 centimeters from the upper incisor tooth. The fourth important constriction or the fourth constriction is located at the point where the esophagus enters a diaphragm to become intra-abdominal. So, this point where it enters into the diaphragm is located at a distance of around 37.5 centimeters from the upper incisor. Now, With relation to the different parts of the esophagus, there are important structures that we need to think about. The cervical portion of the esophagus is closely related to the trachea. The trachea is located anteriorly, as you can see here. The trachea is located anteriorly, closely abutting the esophagus. Compression of the esophagus by the trachea is prevented by the muscle which is located in the posterior aspect of the trachea called trachealis. So, in this groove between the trachea and the esophagus, you have the recurrent laryngeal nerve. So, the two important structures that we need to think about when we operate on the cervical esophagus are the trachea and the recurrent laryngeal nerve located in the tracheoesophageal groove. Now, coming on to the thoracic esophagus. Now, the thoracic esophagus can again be divided into the upper thoracic, middle and the lower thoracic esophagus. This is just to have a basic understanding regarding the relation of the esophagus. Now, the upper third or the upper part of the thoracic esophagus is closely related again to the trachea, to the arch of aorta. So, while operating on the upper part of the thoracic esophagus, these are the two important structures that we are likely to encounter. Another important structure we can encounter here will be the recurrent laryngeal nerve, as it left recurrent laryngeal nerve, as it hooks around the arch of aorta at the level of insertion of the ductus arteriosus. When we come to the middle portion of the thoracic esophagus, it is again closely related to the descending aorta, which is located on the side, on the left of the esophagus, as well as left main bronchus. So, these are two important structures that we need to know about, and also we find that left main bronchus, which we need to know about. So, these are two structures which can get affected while operating on the middle esophagus or middle thoracic esophagus. As we come to the lower thoracic esophagus, we find that again the relation to the aorta is still there, and of course, you find that the diaphragm coming there. Now, the esophagus, like I said earlier, penetrates the diaphragm or goes through an opening in the diaphragm and becomes intra-abdominal. This opening in the diaphragm admits not only the esophagus but also the thoracic duct as well as the vagi, the vagus. Now, this is an important point to be noted. So, we find that this middle portion of the this opening in the diaphragm not only admits the esophagus but also the vagus, vagi or the vagus. To be sure, its plural is vagi. So, this is located at the level of T10 or the 10th thoracic vertebra.